And this was segregated by the wet season and the dry season. So that comes out to about 3,000 data points in each of those data sets. So the proposed model was to look at the growth stages in rice and to look at how they could be estimated from a crop calendar. So what we looked at was, we made a couple of assumptions in saying that the 30 days before peak harvest is marked as mid-season in the crop calendar, but we considered that as the ripening phase. And the period that is bounded by the peak planting and the ripening phase is considered to be the vegetative and reproductive phases. The distinction is that 30 days tends to be an average across all varieties, but the short to long duration rice can have different lengths of vegetative and reproductive stage. So this is how we calculated the weather in the vegetative and the reproductive stage and the weather in the ripening stage and related it to annual or seasonal yield. So I wrote a data program which tries to automate how these data sets are created, because the modeling has to be done over multiple countries and over multiple dimensions before trying to figure out what is the best model. So what this data program does is that it goes into the crop calendar and it picks out the months for the months of ripening and vegetative phases. So it would pick out this month as the ripening phase and this month as the vegetative phase. And it will go into the climate data set and connect it with the exact months measures of weather and make the variables like this, which would tell you what the solar radiation for a district I, say this one, is in during the ripening period in that year. And then it connects it to the yield data set, and you've got this complete data set that we were working with. So we worked with a couple of different climate variables, and in the end we decided on these for initial analysis based on literature study and what would be feasible to start with. So the key advantage of this data set is that you can analyze simultaneously the multiple climatic conditions corresponding to key growth phases, and that you are able to do it by linking it directly to the district or the administrative unit in consideration. So this really reduces the approximation you need to make between time periods and rice growth phases when different regions have like a variety of rice crop establishment patterns. So the empirical methodology is a panel data analysis because it has both a cross-sectional and a time series element to it. And the inclusion of observations over multiple growing seasons for multiple regions allows you to control for two types of unobservable effects that are often not included in a cross-sectional model. So in this way, you can control for unobservables that are state-specific but time-invariant, and this would be things like farm-specific variables like soil. And you can control for time-varying but farm-specific. You can control for things that vary over time, like factors common to farms in a specific area within a specific season or year. So by doing this, we're really trying to control for unobserved sources in variation that fall into this that we can't really control for otherwise. So that is trying to reduce the bias that comes out of the coefficient. And because it's a log-log model, we're able to get out the elasticities. So the coefficients that you see later on will come out as a percent for a given percentage change in minimum temperature, how much percentage change in yield that you might get. So initially we chose Nepal as a country to start with, mainly because it had a very complete data set compared to the other countries, and because it was quite comprehensive in covering all the regions. In Nepal, most of the regions also planted one season, and about 20% of them planted two seasons. So this was also an experiment to see how we would model that when the estimates of yield come out as a cumulative estimate rather than segregated by season. So what is shown here is a stepwise regression when each of the variables were added in stages. So the temperature minimum and solar radiation, you will notice, is added as two different variables, as various studies have shown that the effects tend to be distinct, and we're trying to model it separately. And you can also see that the inclusion of radiation greatly affects the coefficient that's seen on the temperature minimum, which confirms the fact that they indeed should be modeled separately. the impact of the different climate variables on yield varies a lot across the different stages, with the largest absolute impacts of minimum temperature being seen in the vegetative phase, and solar radiation being seen in the ripening phase. So statistical studies are also divided on the direction of the impact of temperature minimum. So some studies look at temperature minimum and say that higher temperature minimum would decrease yield, but there is a problem of modeling nonlinearity in terms of the effect of temperature on yield. So in these cases, we're not sure if the temperature minimum is showing a positive effect on yield because it has not yet reached a threshold after which the negative effect might come into play. The coefficients of radiation, however, are quite promising because they match what is shown in literature. So higher solar radiation in a vegetative phase reduces yield, but that in the ripening phase tends to increase yield, and these coefficients remain quite stable across the different models. The relationship between rainfall and yield, again, studies are divided in terms of the relationship that can come out of a statistical study. So literature shows that higher rainfall should cause higher yield during ripening, but that it might have an insignificant or a slightly negative effect during vegetative, which is what comes out in some of the results. However, it's surprising that the coefficients on the rainfall are slightly smaller than what you would expect. This could be because of reduced dependence on rainfall in these countries and needs to be investigated further. However, since it's an essential aspect of crop growth, it really needs to be included in a model, even if it is only regarded as a control. So the distinction between the random effects and the fixed effects model when you're doing panel data analysis is really looking at how to control for unobservable state-specific characteristics. So for example, if you took something like altitude, it is state-specific but time invariant, but that would definitely be correlated to weather variables that you see in that region. So upon doing a Houseman test, which tests whether random effects or fixed effects is effective, it comes out across the board as being a fixed effects model, and that's what we have decided to state. So we also tried a couple of other different models based on, so this is the model that we ended up from previously. And so the first one we added was when we added harvest variables. So our initial hypothesis was that the climatic conditions during harvest should have a lesser effect on yield predictions, So that would be advantageous to the model because that's the longer lead time that we are looking for in the model. So it does come out to be that the majority of harvest variables are either largely insignificant or have the smaller effect compared to the others, except for temperature minimum. The estimation of the effect of climate on yield that is aggregated across seasons, which tends to be done by a couple of statistical agencies in countries in South and Southeast Asia, is also something that was a bit complicated to model. So what we did was we added season 2 variables to our existing model, and we tried to see what effect its inclusion would have. So these coefficients are not directly interpretable because only a small proportion of the sample data set planted 2 seasons, and they're mainly controlling for variations in weather which could have affected yield that year. However, when we included them, the observations dropped by a lot, and they're explaining very little variation, and the coefficients also changed. So we then modeled another model only with regions with 1 season. And this is quite promising because the results are relatively similar to our initial model, which shows that a lot of the variation, as expected, is really driven by regions with season 1. And looking ahead, this could also mean that even when yield is accumulated over 2 seasons within a country, it might still be possible to develop a singular model for that country, depending on the predominance of people who plant 1 or 2 seasons. So this is the data that we saw for Thailand. And a similar modeling is done. So this table shows you season 1, and this table shows you season 2. So in terms of the trends that we see that the point that why we chose Thailand was for 2 reasons. One is to see how well the parameters would fit and what types of estimates we would obtain if we tried to reduce the uncertainty from yield being accumulated over 2 seasons. because in Thailand they segregated it by season. And another was to see how similar these two models would end up being in terms of trying to develop a singular model for a country. So the estimates that we observed in the second dry season are largely similar to what we saw in the first season and seem to follow the expected directions. The higher temperature minimum, again, this is not robustly seen that it does not lower yield in the vegetative phase. And similarly, higher temperature minimum does not lower yield in the ripening phase. However, in the case like in Nepal, it could be that the issue is the nonlinearity of the effect of temperature on yield. A potential solution to this could be trying to model it in a quadratic way to see if we can try to tease out either a hill-shaped or U-shaped relationship. But the problem is whether there has been enough variation over time to give you a convincing enough curve. Another thing would be to control for extreme weather fluctuations and see if you could try to model the prevalence of droughts or floods or extreme heat or extreme cold, for example. And in terms of radiation, again we see a promising effect. Promising effect that the signs and the significance levels, both in this slide and the next one, seem to show similar effects to what we saw in the case earlier, which shows that maybe solar radiation is a better variable that is less subject to bias by omitted variables. Again, rainfall also shows a significantly smaller effect than the other variables in this model. And the other consideration to consider is that within the ripening phase, rainfall seems to reduce yield rather than increase yield. Again, studies are divided in terms of the direction that this is supposed to show. But a possible explanation could be that in the ripening phase, some studies have said that the water needs are quite small, are relatively smaller, and that rainfall over and above the required amount could affect yield in this way. But again, the non-linearity of this effect is something that could be affecting these estimates. Again, we tried a similar model with Thailand in season 1 and in season 2. And we looked at the inclusion of harvest variables. Again, in both cases, you can see that the harvest variables do end up becoming have a smaller effect and predominantly insignificant effect on the yield that we see. So, the limitations. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the key limitation is the nonlinearity in the effect of climatic conditions on yield, and different ways of trying to model it without compromising on too many degrees of freedom by cluttering the model. Again, there's also an inability to control for different varieties and short, medium, long growing seasons explicitly. I think initially we had assumed that this could be controlled by the difference in the length of the vegetative phase, but however there could be other effects that we're not really accounting for by assuming that everybody plants a similar variety, or that the only impact that changing variety would have would definitely be seen in the difference in the growing season. And there's also a large amount of heterogeneity in the models that are suited to different countries and different regions. So in terms of developing a broad model that would be suited to different countries, this would definitely be a challenge in terms of trying to accommodate the variations in different countries, different regions, different growing climatic zones. And the other concern that would be an immediate next step to this analysis would be that there might be different climatic variables that are important for different growth stages. Initially, we had, as you'd seen earlier, we had kept them in pairs. So we picked 3 main variables and tried to look at the effect in the vegetative and the reproductive phase. And it could be that certain variables are more important for one phase than the other, but this is something that could be done further. So steps forward would be the evolution of the model as more case studies are done, and trying to see whether there are certain models which robustly end up being better predictors than others. Another step would also be to test the predictive strength of the model. So this could be done by, because we have a large data set, it could be done by cutting the data set in half randomly and trying to model an estimate on one half of the data set and seeing if it fits the other. We can also compare the model's results to crop model estimates and controlling for certain factors. Another model which we could consider is one with probabilities, to see if we can reduce the amount of disaggregation we currently have, and see if whether changes in temperature or changes in some climatic variable increases or decreases the probability of having a good season compared to a bad, or a better season compared to a worse. We can also control for extreme weather conditions, which would also be a next step in the analysis. This would be in terms of drought, flooding, or extreme cold, extreme heat. But again, assumptions will have to be made in terms of how long the effect is going to last, whether extreme weather in this year is only going to affect annual yield in this year, or whether it's going to have a spin-off effect the next year, how long that effect will take to fade away, and so on. And I think the key takeaway from this has been to find a balance between the comprehensiveness of the model and over-parameterizing it to an extent where you lose so many degrees of freedom that it might not be feasible to implement all the time. And I had one more slide, which is a bit of a bad joke. But I thought this would be nice for my team to have a look at what I did. This is not me. So we went to Donsol and we saw the whale sharks. That was fun. We went to Boracay and saw the beautiful beaches and lots and lots and lots of people. That was also fun. And we went to Liliu, which was a bit exhausting but a bit of fun. And I also got a chance to go to Pila village with Tita Esther and Dr. Hope, and when they were testing out their interview for the comprehensive data set, and I think that was definitely a very interesting experience for me, because I got to see what are the real challenges of conducting an interview, how you go about conducting an interview, and so on. And I think my team will know that I like Turons a lot, something I will really, really miss from Philippines, and this is a picture to show that everybody is laughing all the time. So, but also doing work. Thank you.
So we may now take some questions and comments from the audience. Nice.
Thanks, Chair, for the interesting presentation. Yes, why did you concentrate on nighttime temperatures alone?
Why did I concentrate on
Because you have the minimum temperatures there.
Yeah.
Did you try the
maximum as
yeah.
well? So that was supposed to be my next step, but I didn't have enough time to get to it. But initially we picked a minimum temperature because we didn't want, because initially I was worried that there would be an issue of multi-coherentity and that would bias estimates too much to allow you to tease out too many impacts. So I included temperature minimum and solar radiation. But I have also read studies on how temperature maximum I think would be a definite next step, because they say that the trends are growing differently and that temperature minimum and temperature maximum has opposing effects on you. So that could definitely be a reason why we're seeing contradictory signs and magnitudes of the temperature minimum. Definitely.
Else is a question?
Thanks. Nice talk. Do you have any agronomic data? Like the main driver of yield, along with climate, obviously, is your agronomic inputs. Do you have anything that you could?
No, we didn't have it to start with. So when Andy was here, we discussed starting with climate, but I think another next step would be trying to model some kind of agricultural inputs and the effect on yield. And there have been a couple of studies. So again, the studies are divided in terms of people who model agronomic and also and people who don't. So some people say that it depends on the cropping patterns and the nature of farming within that country, whether you have certain types of seasons that in which economic variables matter a lot for farmers' decision making, and then hence it affects yield, or whether it tends to be a country where they are more sheltered from these economic impacts, so they tend to be less dependent on this. But I think that would be interesting to look at if we can get data that can be connected accurately, I think, to these areas. I think another thing we were also interested in was in mapping these predictions, because I think we started off at this level of disaggregation, but we wanted to move up so that it would be useful in terms of trying to predict something in the next growing season. So I think if we were able to get data that matches onto this in terms of the IDs,
another question. Sorry.
Yeah.
You had you're looking at rain-fed and irrigated.
Yeah.
So have you separated them out? Because you haven't.
But there are other countries who have separated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine you're looking at solar radiation and rainfall. In an irrigated environment, it's really solar radiation.
Yeah.
Rainfall's gone down.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to a rain-fed environment, rainfall is going to have more effect than solar radiation.
Yeah.
So is there any way you could separate out
Yes,
the two?
yes. So I think that depends on the statistics that come from the national statistics, whether they report it in constant ecosystem.
Okay.
So the other data set I had wanted to look at was in the Philippines, where they disaggregated by season, by harvested and planted area, and by ecosystem.
Right.
So that would have been definitely useful to look at to
Yeah.
see which effects are overriding effects for one as opposed to the other.
Is someone going to do that
Yes.
after you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Questions?
I can ask one, yeah. Thank you for the presentation. I just want you focus your discussion mostly on the statistical significance of your coefficients, and not so much on the R-squares. And I think the R-squares are a bit low.
Yeah.
So how do you interpret that, and how confident are you in using these particular variables for your output variable, let's say,
Yeah.
based on the R-squares?
Yeah, yeah. I think the R squares are pretty low. They're between 0.2 and 0.4, and that is pretty low. But I think at the moment the parameters that have been included are also low compared to the size of the data set. So that could be a reason why these values are not explaining the variation fully. But also there are some data sets where the R square sometimes reaches like a plateau, where if you tend to add more variables, sometimes you increase the R square, but then your model does not become so strong, becomes over parameterized. So I think that's a very good one, trying to see if it will go up or down.
Because just to build on what Jen was saying, I think modeling here usually agronomists
Yeah.
focus on G times Z times M, so the genotype, the environment, and the management. So the interaction between the three of them then result in your real. But of course, the more input you put, then you have a crop model or more simulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You also want to try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. So it's trying to get it.
Is there any more questions? No more? In that case, we thank you again, Sharu, for a very good presentation, and thank you everybody for coming to another SB seminar.
Thank you very much.